7 o'clock. First on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next the approval of minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Fass, seconded by Mrs. Riddell to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Mr. McConic?
Yes.
Mr. Pachinski?
Yes.
Mr. Fass?
Yes.
Mrs. Riddell?
Yes.
Albert votes yes, passes 5-0. Next, the approval of claims.
Make a motion we approve the claims.
I'll second the motion. Motion made by Mr. Fass, seconded by Albert to approve the claims. Any discussion? Mrs. Riddell?
Yes.
Mr. Fass?
Yes.
Mr. Pachinski?
Yes.
Ms. McConic?
Yes.
Albert votes yes, passes 5-0. I'm going to switch things around a little bit here. We have a gentleman from the state police who is from Indianapolis. And I know driving 55 miles an hour takes time to get down there. So
Sure does.
We'll turn it over to Darren.
My calls for service for the month of September are actually way down. Ian and I and Tyler have all been wrapped up with different investigations. You've probably seen less activity on the street. We've had 2 or 3 sex offenses that we had to investigate, and along with some stalking cases, so we've been tied up quite a bit. We only had 193 calls for service, 65 traffic stops, 2 warrant services, 2 crash reports, 2 death investigations, and 11 assist other agency calls. And I would say most of that's going to be attributed to the 3 full-timers being stuck here typing for hours on end. Next thing I'd like to do is I'd like to acknowledge a couple citizens. If Tommy and Haley can come up here, please, and Ian. On September 13th, Ian was on midnight shift, and we all make it a habit of checking our businesses. We check our businesses, get to know everybody. So that's what Ian's doing. He goes to Casey's, he's checking on the night cashier, and as he's there, a gentleman that he has history with pulls into the parking lot, intoxicated, and parks next to his vehicle. The cashier was automatically uncomfortable because the man had been in there kind of harassing her at different times, so Ian stayed around, obviously, because he was intoxicated too. So once Ian saw the opportunity to address the situation, he addressed the situation, and immediately the suspect became agitated. Ian didn't have the opportunity to choose a good location, so he ended up stuck between 2 vehicles as he's dealing with a hot-headed drunk. It turned physical when Ian got the idea from the gentleman, and we're talking about a guy that's 15, 20 pounds heavier than Ian and 10 years younger. So Ian ends up in a wrestling match with this guy in the middle of the night on the pavement, stuck in between 2 cars, and he's intoxicated, and a lot of times when people are intoxicated, less lethal doesn't work. So Ian attempted to use his less lethal, and it didn't have any effect on him. He just kept fighting. So to try to control the guy, who's heavier than him and younger than him, and then to try to handcuff him, it just wasn't working. He's calling for backup. County is usually 5-10 minutes away, depending on where they are. So Haley and Tommy were working at Casey's that night, and they took it upon themselves. Ian didn't ask for help. They were watching out the window. They saw Ian needed help. They both came outside. They intervened, asked Ian how they could help. Ian says, get my extra set of handcuffs out of the squad car. They got him the extra set of handcuffs, gave them to Ian, and right about the time as Ian's getting, the guy cuffed up and ready to go, things get even crazier, but then county gets there. And I wanted to acknowledge these 2 young people. It's not often that you see people willing to put themselves in a bad situation to help us. And I wanted to give them both, a challenge going and personally thank you and shake your hand. Thank you. Thanks, Haley. We have a special bond with Tommy. He does make the donuts at Casey's.
Almost like family.
Softens our hearts and hardens our hearts.
Which is even worse.
Oh, really? I appreciate your help. Thank you so much. You did not have to do it, but thank you. Tommy, thank you. You saved my eyeballs that night. I had quite a bit of OC spray was going on in a confined space, and it came back onto me and the sheriff. And Tommy immediately got on it and saw that my face was on fire. And I couldn't see when the suspect was still rolling around with the sheriff. And he got me some water so I could clear my eyeballs out. And he helped me out. So that way I could see again and then help the sheriff as well. So good job on both of you. Haley, thank you so much for helping me out.
Thank you.
Also here tonight I have Sergeant Ben from the Indiana State Police. You've all gotten some of my emails where I've been out of town at different times, working on what I've explained as a crime portal for NIBRS reporting that's going to be replacing uniform crime reporting. And we're getting to the point where we're getting closer and closer and we're making more and more progress. And I brought Sergeant Ben in to kind of let you guys know how things are going and sort of explain what the whole purpose of the crime portal is. So Sergeant Ben, take it away.
Thank you.
Go Sergeant Ben.
How's everybody doing, man?
Thank
Good, first off. I'm ready to get home. I do want to say that good job, but I don't know if anyone's ever been tased, but I'd much rather get tased than the OC spray any day. Okay? That ride comes and it goes. But the OC spray, you're going to be stuck with that for a while. My name is Ray Ben. I'm Sergeant with Indiana State Police, and I've been working with Darren for probably the better part of this year. He mentioned the Uniform Crime Program. It's been around since the early 1920s. Just to kind of get things in perspective for the group about the program, what it does. It was developed as a way to start collecting crime information across America. And the way they did this, I'll try and be brief, the way they did this was they collected summary data from various agencies that chose to participate across the states. Now what summary data is if a crime happens over here across the street, someone breaks in, there's a aggravated assault, a burglary, and a rape, the most serious offense will get reported. And that's it. Okay? As if the other burglary and the aggravated assault didn't happen. So we're not collecting all the crime information that's happening across the states. Former Director FBI Comey put together a plan to move away from summary and go to what they call NIBRS. Okay, that is National Incident-Based Reporting System. The FBI will stop accepting summary data in 2021, full-blown NIBRS. So you say, well, what's the difference between these two reporting systems, okay? In that given scenario, every crime that happened in that circumstance would have been reported. So we're going to collect a ton more information about what happens in these given scenarios. We're going to get a lot more information from victim offenders, their relationships, weapons, and the whole plethora. There's 52 different data elements that it's going to collect. On the state level, as you'll go through, you'll find that different states collect different information on top of what the FBI wants to collect. Maybe they want to collect information on fentanyl, heroin, methamphetamines, domestic abuse. Okay, these are things that other states have put in place to collect that information, to analyze it for different areas, and just so they can have a bigger grasp and using data to do it. Okay, think about what we see nowadays with TV and marketing and commercials. They're always targeting some group to purchase their product, you know what I mean? And they get all their information from these websites, from emails, from surveys. They're using data. As law enforcement, we need to do the same thing. We need to to be able to collect this data and information and use it to combat crime and criminals. Because criminals, they follow a pattern. Some of them do, some of them don't, but a lot of them commit the same mistakes. A lot of them set trends. So if we're able to have a better analysis of what's going on in our communities, it gives us a bigger edge to combat these types of crimes. Normally, the way this is handled and this information is collected is through a state program. So out of 50 states, 48 states had a state program to collect this information. Okay, there are 2 states that didn't: Indiana and Mississippi. And I first learned this when I accepted this job. My official title is statewide coordinator. So our superintendent, Doug Carter, my major, Mike White, decided, well, it's about time we catch up with the times and put this program in place. Because right now, before, the departments just send this information to the FBI, completely bypassing the state level. Well, that's good for the FBI. They put out a publication 12 months later. Hey, here was your crime in Indiana from 12 months ago. We can't do much with that data, right? By that time, the criminals have already moved on, bigger, better things. They've changed operating methods. We're behind the ball, okay, waiting that time. So now that we have a state program, my job has been to go out, talk about our program, which is still UCR, is still Uniform Crime Reporting, but now is NIBRS. My job is to assist agencies from switching summary data to submitting NIBRS data, or from submitting nothing to NIBRS data. We developed a program that will not submit summary. There's no use in looking back on that. So we decided to press forward and make something happen. Excuse me. So, one thing won't work for every agency, because every agency uses different technology. So we create a variety of methods. For example, the state police, we use a system called Interact, or Caliber, to go out here and we collect, we use for our CAD, which is what we use in our cars, and for our RMS, which is a report management system, how we take our case reports. There are Caliber, Spillman, ADSI, there's a ton of them out there, okay? Unfortunately, departments are using whatever they want. So we designed a system that will interface, not technically interface, but it can collect information from these systems. So we have a technical document that we give to their report, to their RMS, and they can in turn take that information and send it to us. Or we have another way where they can just collect a simple file, and it will simply collect just the NIBRS submission. And that's just those 52 data elements, which is still quite a bit from what we're collecting now, which was nothing. So it was us in Mississippi, and as I went to these conferences, they kept saying Indiana, Mississippi, and I was like, well, heck, we wear shoes in Indiana. I said, we should be able to beat Mississippi on this thing, right? So we got the system up and running. I went out here talking to agencies, and one of the things we developed was a crime portal. It's a web portal, and it operates just like a web-based wizard. You go through in there, you put your information in there, your crime, your subject, your victim, your evidence, all that type of stuff, and we collect it, and it goes to our central repository, and then it goes to the FBI. Now, the great thing about this is we're collecting much more information than the FBI does at the state level. So we collect all this information, we take a piece out of that, which is NIBRS, and we send it to the FBI, okay? To kind of explain how big that is, for the last 10 to 15 years, we've been using the same program when we show up on your scene and collect crash information. So we have 10 to 15 years of crash information in the system. We can tell you everything you want to know about a crash. How fast, which way, with the lights on, tons of it, right? Think about it, we've been collecting crime information for the last 10 to 15 years and putting it in the database. How much more could we learn about what's actually going on in the streets? So the problem is finding people to use this program, because we had to certify our statewide program with the FBI to say, hey, we're Indiana, we're certified, we have a statewide program. and all the different methods in which way we could collect data we had to use. So we used Indiana State Police, we used LaPorte County Sheriff's Department, and Darren volunteered to use our crime portal. So without Darren, we would never been able to achieve our Indiana certification in NIBRS. Now the interesting thing about the crime portal is any agency can use it. It just depends if they choose to use it or if they choose to remain on their system. Either which way works, we don't care. We just want the information, okay? But currently we only have 3 agencies using our crime portal. It's Westville, Hamilton PD, and the other one just signed on to, their name escapes me right now. But the thing is, with Westville using this, in Indiana, Westville is the closest thing you can get in Indiana to live crime statistics. So whenever they do a report, it goes into that system, and they can track every day, every week, every month, from burglary, aggravated assault, domestic battery, whatever crime is taking place, they can take that, they can plot it on a map, and they can show you. So we're talking about on the curve, on the cutting edge of crime technology. Believe it or not, Westville's in the front, okay? I'm asking Darren to come help me speak at a Town Marshal Association meeting because we just want to get the word out about this portal. And you know what else? It's free. We spent $1.2 million because it was the right thing to do. You know, if we're going to ask for everyone to participate, we want to make a way for that to happen. So we put in that investment. The governor, last legislation, passed a bill, HB 1189, and it requires every law enforcement agency to submit NIBRS data to the state program. And starting June of 2018, they're expecting 6 months worth of data, okay? Westville is far ahead of the game. You guys are there. A lot of other agencies are moving there, but a lot of things have to happen as far as technology, and some systems actually have to build to the software we have. So there are some things there that we're working on, but there's a large movement in the state. But you guys are very much ahead of the curve because Darren stepped up and said, you know what, I think this can help our town. Not only that, but it might save us some money. Okay, who doesn't want to save money? So he's been very instrumental in anything new. It has to deal with computers. Never going to work right the first time around, right? So it's been working well, but we appreciate it because we need someone to use it to tell us, hey, how about this? How about this? How about this? Let's try this. That's what we did today, maybe for 2 hours, talking about let's make improvements on it. So it's there. I'm sure Darren will show it to you. In the future, what we plan to do is have a site up just for law enforcement, and we also plan on having a public site. So anyone that's go on there and check crime statistics and stuff like that will be able to do that. So that's kind of NIBRS in a small talk, but it's very big across the state because with this new law, every agency has to do it. But the question is how they have to, everyone doesn't have the funding, right, to make this move. So we're helping them with that, grants and stuff like that. So we'll continue to press forward. Any questions about NIBRS or the portal? Thanks for your time.
The last thing I have on the agenda is the reserves, the insurance for the reserve. We were made aware of House Bill 1555 a couple months ago that requires towns to carry reserves on workman's comp, and part of that is that we would have to pay them minimum wage, full-time hours up to 5 years if they were injured while working for us and all work that long. When you read through the bill, it says that you can accomplish all of the requirements by carrying an insurance policy, so I called Debbie Blake, and she gave us a quote of $1,114 that meets all the requirements for House Bill 1555. And I apologize to Ethan earlier, I had that in my email, I didn't give it to him sooner to review, but Debbie said she's checked and double checked, and it's what we need. Obviously, it's not something that we budgeted. We have, one of my reserves works for CN Railroad, and every year that he works for us, they have a volunteer, kind of like a program to reward companies that allow their employees to volunteer for them. So every year we get $1,000 from CN Railroad that goes into my donation account. So I would like to keep the reserve program going and pay that yearly premium out of my donation account. If that's something that you folks are all okay with.
I don't have any objection with it. That's what the donation fund's for. When does that bill that law take effect, January 1st?
January 1st. So I have to make sure I leave money in that line at the end of this year, and I'll pay the premium in January.
That sounds great.
I'm done. 20
Well,
minutes.
Nathan from MCO, your second fiddle for 2 months in a row. Next month, we'll put you on.
Drag it out for about 25 minutes.
25. I think everyone's got a copy of my report.
Yes.
Just real quick, go through a couple of the bullet point items. We did have Evapar on site. There was a problem that I was made aware of on the generator at the water plant. It would not maintain proper voltage, and Adam told me that they were required to actually go out and adjust it, which is a good thing. Especially because usually when the generator's running, it's usually when it's either raining, snowing, or it's really bad weather. So I think Adam did get a price to get that repaired. I don't know if he talked to you or not. Okay, I'll make sure that we get that. And to get that repaired, we recommend that, and also to have all the three generators serviced also. They haven't been serviced in almost 2 years, I think. We did have Mark Lutala from MB Controls on site to look at the controls and the SCADA system. He can get into everything. There's keys and everything there. I recommend, his rate is $95 an hour, which in that is very reasonable. I like to get him out there for at least several days if it takes us, just so he's, one day just to see what we have, and then we can decide what we want to do and what we want to make adjustments on or make changes on. There's still some recurring problems at the wastewater plant, and I'm not sure why. I'm a water and wastewater operator. I'm not a real good computer guy with the SCADA system, but it appears that we still have some problems with some of the software and that. So I think Mark said he could take a look at it. We can go from there. The good thing is that he can get into everything, and then we can make sense of what's going on and make some changes on some things, because there's some things that were put into the program that I really don't understand why. And there's some flexibility that we can't just do without basically having a change of the programming itself. So I think that would be very beneficial. Bubba brought out a load of riprap out. We had a washout up at the treatment plant, and talked to him, and boom, it was there. So we'll get that moved around some to keep that from happening. One of the seals went out of the lift station number 2. We did have Superior pumping come out. They changed it. They pulled it and had it back in service within 2 days. Today they pulled the other one out. We knew the shaft was scored on it, and to prevent us from having a catastrophic failure, we decided just to go ahead and have it pulled and have it taken in, because the guy from Superior Pump was out there about a year ago when he worked for Gas Loaded, and noticed it was a problem, and he actually informed me of it. So it would made a whole lot of sense getting it changed now instead of waiting until it completely failed. We did, and when I get, there were some
things I included in the report, they're just some visual observations we've seen, and once I get the full report done on basically where we're at, and hopefully I'll have that done before next meeting. One of the things I did notice was 2 of the lift stations, and I think those are the lift stations you do billing on, have got Doppler flow meters, and they're really not a very accurate flow meter. So I'm gonna get some more information on them and basically see, maybe make recommendations on whether to keep them or to probably get a more accurate meter that's actually more calibratable than
The other day, we talked about the spare lift station we have. Did they look at it to see if that can be?
They looked at it, there's some things we can keep, there's some things, the pumps in that are gonna be, I think are too big for that one out there. But we looked at it, and it's one thing probably after, I would say we do some planning. Right now, I'm gonna talk to Superior, and I think it may make sense to replace the 2 suction tubes on the lift station out there now with PVC. I can get a ballpark price on what's gonna cost. The ductile iron ones are in such bad shape that I'm really worried that you may have failure before we can really do a big improvement. I don't think you can use that one there. I think you could, well, I should, let me rephrase that. We can use it there. It may not be cost effective to use it there on that one. The pumps, John took the numbers down. He's gonna see, I think they might be pretty good replacements for the pump, for the stations we have already, up on 421. We're gonna look at just looking at just going with the submersible pump station there. It may make a whole lot of sense financially and, really and operationally. I don't know if it's really worth the cost to go into, a top mount, vacuum prime system like, we'll look at both ways and just see. So the station's in pretty rough shape, just some of the piping. So some of that's gonna have to be redone anyway. So we can probably get it to where it makes a lot more sense and give you some better ideas on which way to go on that. So at the water plant, we did have D.L. Anderson on site several times last month. We did order some parts. There's near failure on, well, we did have one of the booster pumps was really in bad shape. Luckily, there were some parts there that we could get it going. And we did order a couple of the, a head unit, and I think a regulator was ordered. Those are pretty critical parts on the coordination system. I do, another company's coming out tomorrow, Living Waters, they're out of, around Indianapolis. They're gonna look at it and kind of give me a third party evaluation of it, and then I also want them to quote what it'd take to use their equipment, and I also want them to shoot us a price on converting that over to more of a liquid, where you basically use bleach for disinfection versus gas chlorine. There's advantages and disadvantages of it. I have my personal preferences, but one thing, there's with the existing system you have, there's a lot of things that can go wrong, and if one of those things goes wrong, it takes the whole system basically out. So to upgrade it to probably where it should be is going to be, it may not be cost effective to do that other than just going to hydrochloride disinfection. To do that though, we'd have to do, get an engineer involved and do a construction permit if that's the route we go. But it's a lot easier for an operator to take if you've got a metering pump that breaks, is to take that out, pull the one out, stick a new one on, and plug it in, and you're back in operation instead of having to change pump parts and you've got solenoids and everything else that works with the gas chlorine system, plus the safety issue. And where the water plant's located, it may be time to look at that too. But I'm not too worried about that. But it's always a concern on that. We did receive a quotation from Peerless Midwest. I think it was $17,000 to have each of the high service pumps overhauled. They don't have to, it doesn't have to be now, it's just I wanted to get a price because I think it should be budgeted in. They have not, there's no record of anything being done in 17 years on them. They're just, the rotating assemblies probably should be, one, taken out of service. They take it back, they inspect it, they look at it to see what the condition is. They may change, they probably change the bearings and change the seals in it and inspect the impeller to see if it hasn't fallen off the curve much, so that's the good thing with it. So, but other than that, and that is all I have.
Thanks a lot. Is there, you're learning a lot about our plant, so.
Yeah, yeah, it's, you always do, it's really tough the first couple months just to kind of understand what the what's and the whys and why things have been done in the past, and, you know, I go out with a little different set of eyes and ask a lot of questions, but Adam and Brett have been really good to work with, they've been really good, and, you know, they're open to do things differently and look at things differently, so hopefully we can implement some different things and some new things on just the way things are operated and how we do things, so.
Well, we're happy with what you're doing, and I know those guys are pleased. They've said it's nice when they're told to do something and explain why they're doing it or why they run this test. They're learning quite a bit, I think, from what you're doing too, so.
And that's, I mean, it's really important to know why you do things instead
Yeah.
of just following some footsteps on a floor.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, we've been doing that for 20 years. Well, why have we been doing it for 20 years? Well, we did. You know, things change, you know, and technology changes, and, you know, you've got some very nice facilities, there's no doubt about that, so.
Yeah, you should have seen what we had 30 years ago.
I remember.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate everything you do, and you know, I usually go down there a couple times a week, talk to those guys, and talk to you, or whatever, so.
Anytime, and like I said, if anybody's got any questions or anything, everybody's got my card, you can call me anytime.
Okay, thanks a lot. We'll put you on first next month.
That's okay. That's okay, I'm gonna take off if that's okay.
Yep, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Streets. I had the other day, a lady came in here from the resale shop, and there's older ladies that work down there, and they have nowhere to park, and they asked about getting a handicap parking spot down there by the resale shop. So I put it on here so we could talk about it, maybe have.
I think Bubba told me that Darren and them were looking at it or whatever. Right now, they've got 2 signs and 5-gallon pails that they've got sitting there handicapped, but I don't know. What did he say this morning to you, something about they didn't want it? He said Janice said they didn't want it, and so,
Oh, I haven't heard that yet.
yeah. So I don't know what the deal is, but,
Well, getting one at least in front of it from the sniper would be nice, like an official one.
Mike, who asked you about that?
I've seen the lady, but I don't know what her name is. I know it wasn't Margaret Glassley, because she spoke about Margaret.
Mary Howard.
I know Mary Howard.
You've got the 2 Jans, you've got Jan Buchanan,
I know her.
you've got, Jan the, I don't know, that's what I know.
Maybe it was her.
Maybe we can tell Bubba.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Get in
you
there and
can
check.
go down and check, see if they want.
So that's where that's at, so.
Okay.
Anything else on the streets?
Yes, one thing.
Oh, yes, you have something kind of minor to report.
Since about, probably June, we've been trying to get money out of the state for community crossing matching grant fund. And when was it, Thursday, I think? Laurie and myself and Bubba went to South Bend to meet the governor. And this temporary check here is what the town will receive. Almost $405,000 for local roads and street repair, which with our portion of it, we'll have $540,000 for getting the streets taken care of.
Nice job.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be putting a clover leaf in, right?
Yeah, right. No. In the meantime, we do have some more stuff, you have to go through the LPA and NDOT. We have a meeting the 16th at the Port Sub-District. And Bob and I have talked, and H.W. Lochner was the engineering firm we had to get this going. We've got a contract with them now for not to exceed $5,000, which we haven't. I heard it's under $1,200 for what they've done for us. We want them to get the bid packets ready, and as we move on, this work probably won't begin until next spring. We gotta have this signed with a contractor by April 15th and submitted to NDOT, or we lose the money. So we'd like them to continue and inspect the jobs as they're going along. Whoever is the bid. So
And they're gonna do the bid packets too, then?
yes,
So-
yes. So I'll make that a motion if I need, or just continue with what we got.
Why don't you make that a formal motion?
I'll make a motion that we continue with H.W. Lochner on the contract we presently have.
I'll second the motion. Motion made by Mr. Bashinsky, second by Albert, to retain H.W. Lochner to do the work required on this grant project. Is there any discussion? Mrs. Riddell?
Yes.
Mr. Fatt?
Yes.
Ms. McConic?
Yes.
Mr. Bashinsky?
I'll abstain.
And Albert votes yes. Motion passes. And appreciate everything you've done on this.
Thank you. I hope it benefits the town in the spring.
Hopefully we'll have
Have
a
a
lot
lot
of
of good use, and then maybe it'll last a while, we can tighten up.
Hopefully we won't have a bad winter or bust the streets up, right?
Yeah, you don't need that.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Parks,
I got nothing.
nothing. Won't be long, we'll have the porta pot thing for the
I'm really excited about the porta pot. I look forward to that time of year.
finance. Nothing finance. Oh, the beautification
Yes.
project. Ordinance. We have, ordinance, this is ordinance 2017-11. It's an ordinance of the town council, the town of Westville, Port County, Indiana. It's establishing a beautification committee. Would you like this read or by title only? Would you like to speak on it a little bit?
This is something that originated with the Plan Commission, and was something that they had discussed, was creating a beautification committee, in part to reach out to the residents and try and engage them more, also to come up with new and different ideas in terms of local projects here. So this has been discussed at the Plan Commission, I believe at the last 2 or 3 meetings. I think it was briefly discussed at the last town council meeting. So this would be a new town committee. It would be comprised of a total of 7 members, 4 of which are appointed by the Plan Commission, 3 by the town council, and the town council does it have the authority to appoint the president of the beautification committee. They are an advisory board, and they are to report to the Plan Commission and to the town council, and need town council approval before expending or filing any grant applications for funds.
Okay, unless there's any objection, I'll read this by title only. Okay, I will make a motion that we approve ordinance 2017-11 on the first reading.
Second.
Motion made by Albert, second by Mr. Bashinsky to approve ordinance 2017-11 on the first reading. Is there any discussion? Mrs. Riddell?
Yes.
Mr. Fatt?
Yes.
Mr. Bashinsky?
Yes.
Mr. McConic?
Yes.
Albert votes yes, passes 5-0. Now I'll make a motion that we suspend the rules and adopt ordinance 2017-11.
Second that.
Motion made by Albert, second by Mr. Bashinsky to suspend the rules and adopt ordinance 2017-11. The ordinance establishing a beautification committee. Is there any discussion? Mrs. Riddell?
Yes.
Mr. Fatt? Yes. Mr. Bashinsky?
Yes.
Mr. McConic?
Yes.
Albert votes yes, passes 5-0. We now have a beautification ordinance. Everybody quit looking at me when they say beautification. Wow.
We couldn't help.
I'm the first thing they're gonna work on.
That's right.
Any other miscellaneous? Yes.
I got something under planning commission and then the BZA appointment. we had a few applications coming to the town hall. I think all the candidates were good candidates. Had a chance to review them and kind of look at who I'd like to recommend moving forward was, for the planning commission of BZA is Bill McMahon. He's been participating for a couple months, volunteering at the planning commission to do research and contact other towns, municipalities. I feel like he'd be a good fit. It had to be a Republican candidate as well, and he fit that criteria. But I'd like to recommend Bill McMahon for planning commission. I make a motion.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Fast, seconded by Mrs. Riddell to appoint Bill McMahon to the BZA and the Plan Commission. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Any discussion? Mrs. Riddell?
Yes.
Mr. Fath?
Yes.
Mr. Connick?
Yes.
Mr. Brzezinski?
Yes.
Albert votes yes, 5-0. And we have do we have a spot on the civil service board? Is that still
One
vacant?
That's still vacant as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna-
Did you
I
want
wanted to see if, Jackie, would you be interested in the civil service board? Or
Sure what it is, but sure.
do you think, can you give a little synopsis of this?
Civil Service Board is there for, the town's law enforcement officers as well as its full-time employees, that to the extent that they think that there's been adverse employment action taken against them, that they can appeal that decision to the Civil Service Board.
Another thing I'd like, would you be interested in that?
And I can't imagine there's a whole lot involved in it.
It's always on when those situations arise. One thing I'd like to mention though is this beautification committee is gonna have 7 members. That's gonna be 3 appointed by the town council, right, 4 by the planning commission. I'm wanting that committee's gonna have a lot of influence. So that's, if you are interested, would you be interested in?
Sure,
Would you like to be the first person appointed to the beautification committee?
sure, absolutely.
I would like to appoint Jackie to the beautification committee,
In the merit civil service board.
and the merit civil service board.
Say that 5 times. Second.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Bass, second by Mrs. Riddell to appoint
Thank
Jackie
you,
Krass to the Civil Service Board and to the Beautification Committee. Is there any discussion? Mr. McConaughey?
Yes.
Mr. Brzezinski?
Yes.
Mr. Fath?
Yes.
Mrs. Riddell? Albert votes yes, passes 5-0. Welcome aboard.
Thanks, Jackie.
First one there. And Mr. McMahon, we don't want to.
So, that being said, if anybody anybody in town that would be interested in that, we've had a couple other people have interest. They're not present right now, so I want to reach out to them and confirm that they have interest, but, feel free to let Lori know or reach out to us on the planning commission, town council.
Is there anything else? Again, oh, yes.
I just had a question for maybe Jim. The funds that are for the street department, I know that my aunt and her friend live on B Street, right on 421, and I guess that we are busing kids from that new development beyond that because there aren't sidewalks there for them to walk to school. Is there, or we have a plan to put sidewalks in there?
The school, I can answer that.
Okay.
The school has a grant program that they are working on, it's for schools. And I know I got something in the mail the other day on it, and it came to us instead of them, but they are working on it. It was sidewalks there and some on 421,
Safe routes to school.
safe routes, and there's a couple in Water Tower that run along, Independence.
Who the school do you know is responsible for that?
I talked to Curtis about it.
Okay.
Right, that was,
That's what we talked about.
Okay,
and this was just like last week, it came to me, I took it up to it.
all right, very good.
I don't know where they're at on it, I think if it doesn't, they don't get money, it renews, they have to renew it, because there's only so many people, but I know they've been working on it. fact, I think it's been surveyed at one point, they even ran it surveyed.
Yeah, I think she said somebody asked them if they would, or if they were all right with it, and they're like, absolutely, you know, help.
But, yeah, it's in, I don't know how fast it moves, but it's in the works.
That's cool, thank you.
Again, thanks to the Casey's employees for assisting, Ian, that's really great. So, anything else? Okay, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion made. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mashinsky, seconded by Mr. Pfaff to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed being none, the meeting adjourns at 7:45.